If the government or NASA had said to you that the Earth is stationary, imagine that. And then imagine we are trying to convince people that no, it's not stationary. It's moving forward at 32 times rifle bullet speed and spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. We would be laughed at. We would have so many people telling us, "You're crazy. The Earth is not moving." We would be ridiculed for having no scientific backing for this convoluted moving Earth theory. And not only that, but then people would say, "Oh, then how do you explain a fixed, calm atmosphere and the sun's observable movement? How do you explain that?" Imagine saying to people, no, the atmosphere is moving also, but is somehow magically velcroed to the moving Earth. The reason is not simply because the Earth is stationary. So what we are actually doing is what makes sense. We are saying that the moving Earth theory is nonsense. The stationary Earth theory makes sense, and we are being ridiculed. You've got to picture it being the other way around to realize just how ridiculous this situation is. This theory from the government and NASA that the Earth is rotating and orbiting and leaning over and wobbling is absolute nonsense. And yet people are clinging to it tightly, like a teddy bear. They just can't bring themselves to face the possibility that the Earth is stationary, though all the evidence shows it. We feel no movement. The atmosphere hasn't been blown away. We see the sun move from east to west. Everything can be explained by a motionless Earth without bringing in all these assumptions to cover up previous assumptions gone bad. If you find from your own experience that something is a fact and it contradicts what some authority has written down, then you must abandon the authority and base your reasoning on your own findings. So investigate the subject for yourself and ask questions.
There it is. Check it out, guys. That is so exciting. Incredible.
Hello my friends, I'm Kyle Thompson. This is Research Flat Earth. And as always, welcome back.
This is a little short video to tell you to go check this guy who did amazing work, a lot of cross-reference, and even though he's a really small channel, there's dedicated trolls for his channel, so I think everybody could check it out. Here's what it looks like. If you're trying to go from Apia to Pago Pago, which is, let me show you on what it looks like. It's right in the middle of the Pacific, and as you can see here, it's where there's the weird intersection of the time zone. And whenever someone tries to fly from Apia to Pago Pago, something really, really weird happened. Let me show you. So let's go back. So there's only 2 flights available, each over 5 grand, 34 hours for 70-kilometer stretch. So check this out. In order to go from Apia to Pago Pago, they need to go to Nadi, and then to go to Sydney, and then to Honolulu, and then from Honolulu to Pago Pago. Makes total sense, right? You know, just take a 5,000 kilometer detour to get from point A to point B, which is supposed to be about 70 miles. So go check this guy. Go check Propaganda Destroyers. He did a lot of cross-reference. He looked at a weather map. Go check his channel. Amazing stuff. And have fun trying to explain to me why someone needs to take a 5,000 mile detour to go across a little bit of water. And yes, just for the trolls to know already, I already did my check to go from Pago Pago to Apia, and there's so-called island flights, but you can't know what a flight cost or anything before you enter a full page of information. You cannot have how much time it's gonna take or anything like that before you fill out a huge form application. And pay. So I might just take that flight one day just for fun to just confirm, because this is just strange. All right, have a good time, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Sometimes a great discovery is a new perspective on the universe we thought we knew. As the Voyager spacecrafts near the edge of our sun's reach, scientists are getting a new look at the expanse and shape of the solar system. Over 30 years ago, Voyager 1 and 2 set out for Jupiter, Saturn, and beyond. Now as the twin spacecrafts explore the outer reaches some 9 billion miles away from Earth, they have crossed the heliosphere, the bubble of supersonic solar wind. However, when Voyager 2 crossed this boundary much closer to the Sun than expected, we received a picture of a squashed heliosphere rather than a round bubble. The squashed heliosphere helps scientists build up a picture of how the Sun interacts with the space outside of our solar system. The recently launched IBEX, or Interstellar Boundary Explorer, will further the study of how the solar wind interacts with the cold gas between stars.
Now, folks, my interview with this pilot stunned me, because he confirmed what happened in the Arctic. He also confirmed the Antarctic story, and he said, listen, he says, True, you don't want to know what happens when you go across this particular mountain range at the end of the Earth. He called it the end of the Earth. The end of the Earth is what he said to me in this interview in 1991. Okay, I said, is that a colloquialism? Is it a euphemism? He said, he just laughed. He says, no, I'm talking literally.
Douglas.
Yeah.
Look, I can explain. I'm sorry. I need to see you. Meet me in Fuller's office.
I know the truth.
Where are you?
You could call it the end of the world.
But it's a curiosity as to where we are, what we are. It's very much more exciting to discover we're on a ball, half of it sticking upside down. It's spinning around in space. There's a mysterious force which holds us on. It's going around a great big glob of gas that's burning fueled by a fire that's completely different than the fire, any fire we can make. Well, now we can make that fire, nuclear fire. No, but that's a much more exciting story to many people than the tales which other people used to make up who worried about the universe, that we were living on the back of a turtle or something like that. They were wonderful stories, but the truth is so much more remarkable. And so what's the pleasure in physics is that, to me, is that as it's revealed, the truth is so remarkable, so amazing. And I have this disease, and many other people who have studied far enough to begin to understand a little of how things work are fascinated by it. And this fascination drives them on to such an extent that they've been able to convince governments and so on to keep supporting them in this investigation that the race is making into its own environment.
Howdy everyone, it's Tex again here at the Man Cave. It was a pretty blanket that a friend of mine gave me. Really like it, and it helped me to think up something, make a point about something. I think in an earlier video I may have introduced y'all to Blue, a buddy of mine, but I want you to take a look at him again. This here's Blue. Big, wet, and blue sphere. See that? It's even got its own North Pole, by golly. So, let's say it's midnight, and that light I got over there, that lamp, took the shade off of it. There's also a lamp overhead, so you got a sun glowing from there. This is one of those two sun planets like Nibiru or Europa or Io or one of those things. So anyway, when the sun's here, naturally, my hand back here on this back side, if that was us, it'd be midnight. And at midnight, we would be looking in a big circle out at the stars. And they'd look something like that. Okay? Now here's the thing that's funny. Here's the sun shining this way. So in 6 months, we're going to be way over there on the other side of the sun. And we're going to have turned. So we'll still be facing midnight out. And you're still going to see the blanket. You're still going to see the same blanket. But I don't have a blanket on that wall. And y'all help me figure this out. Or just admit the fact that Earth is flat.
Now came the most critical part of the mission. Two space surgeons began a complicated operation to replace several black boxes buried inside the satellite. After slicing open the skin, they disconnected hundreds of wires and then reconnected them, using the cargo arm as a moving work platform.
Cut these wires to pick this guy up here. Okay, that's it's a little bit more. So we can see your hand now. See if we can see your thumb. Okay, well that's a good scan of it. Yeah, I got the M cut just now to get.
We can see your hand now? We can see your thumb? Watch again at this pressurized glove as it bends just like a normal thumb would.
It's a little bit more. So we can see your hand now. See if we can see your thumb. Okay, well that's a good scan of it.
We can see your hand now, we can see your thumb. We can see your hand now, we can see your thumb. You think I'm really stupid, but I'm really not that dumb. You call yourself scientist, I call you filthy scum.
Well, hi folks, hope you're well. It's Saturday the 14th of Jan. I've really been dreading doing this video, quite frankly, because it is an absolute minefield. For various reasons. One is that you can get terribly bogged down in the science of it all, number one. Number two is there's a hell of a lot that you have to undo. Because the subject of tonight's video, before you turn off, in utter disgust and oh, not another one, is the fact is that we live on a flat Earth. A plane, not a planet. Okay, a plane, a flat sheet. Okay. And so it's a tough call, because we have all been, of course, been brought up with this. And the other one I've been dreading is that I am not going to get into a debate about this with those with an opposing view. This is not the purpose of the video. You can hold any view you like, my old son, as they say. I am simply putting forward my beliefs for your delectation. They're not coming forward to you seeking your approval, your endorsement, same thing, your ridicule, your scientific arguments. I don't care about what books you've read. I don't care how many letters after your bloody name you have. We all have them. I don't care. Because I stopped caring what other people think about me a long time ago. Because I find it a restrictive practice in my development. You see, the freedom that you enjoy, the moment you don't give a shit what other people think about you folks, it's a revelation. It truly is. It's a breath of fresh air. You've broken the chains that bind you. What will my mum say? What will my brother say? What will my dad say? What will my friends and colleagues say? These oh so important are they fuck people. Look folks, to thine own self be true. Because ultimately, when you drop dead, it's only going to be you. And you'll meet your maker soon enough. Nobody, quite frankly, gives a shit. Into the Holy goes the Holy Spirit. The Father, the Son, the Holy goes. Into the Holy goes. Nobody really truly gives a shit what you think, quite frankly, my dear. And nobody truly gives a shit what I think. But it's nice to share. Maybe, just maybe, you think along the same lines as me, in which case, you know, great. At least this idiot isn't alone. Because misery loves company. But so does enlightened people. Enlightened people, you'll find, are happier people. There's none so dumb as the ignorant, and none so bloody miserable, is there? You see, it strikes me, certainly before I digress too much, that the unhappy people are the ones who are less informed about life. But that doesn't make bright people any happier, strangely enough, does it, that thought? The problem is they're believing the wrong things. And those that seek to make them believe that are laughing all the way to the bloody bank. Because they've got you, my friend. They truly have ensnared you in their net or their spider's web. Because they want you there. You're drowning, my dears, in a sea of ignorance. Before I launch into my diatribe of the flat earth, I would like to make a few points. Number one is, I'm going to do a kiss on you, Kiss. I'm going to keep it simple, stupid. It's the only way I can cope. I'm a simple soul. Okay. Yes, fundamentally I'm a scientist. Aren't we all? I have an ology. Don't we all? But before I launch, I think there's certain things that if you're going to avail yourself to some of the truths that you might be resistant, assuming you're a baller, if you believe that we live on a sphere, don't worry. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to say and tell you what convinced me to the polar opposite, excuse the pun, of what you believe. If you believe we're on a ball and I believe we're on a flat plane, we might have something to talk about. But sadly, this isn't a two-way conversation. I'm going to tell you why I think like I do. And maybe, just maybe, it'll spur you into thinking, well, there's a certain degree of he's got nothing to gain by telling me this. That's very true. I don't have a vested interest in anything you do. I don't have a club. I don't have a membership. I don't have nothing. I'm just sharing information. I've got my information from others like Eric Dubai and co. who share. And I've listened to them. And I've looked at the preponderance of evidence and I've done my own due diligence. Believe it or not, I've looked into things myself. Yes, I'm really not that stupid to take the word of a person. But the preponderance of evidence, once you discover it, it's like opening a magic Pandora's box. And that's what it is. Once you get your head, dare I say it, around the fact is that we live on a flat plane, so much that has been confusing you, or certainly with me, it makes perfect sense. All of a sudden, it's a revelation, as I said. You see, it's like discovering the Ark of the Covenant. What is this big thing? Well, I believe it's the truth. And I want to be set free. And I heard rumours that the truth will indeed set me free. Well, it has. I'll tell you why. It's given me great hope for the future of humanity. Because, believe it or not, in Shakespeare's words, the truth will out. And the one thing the internet has allowed us to do is share information and solve the deeper mysteries of the lies and do our own due diligence with such power never available to those who seek knowledge have had before in history. You have more power in your mobile phone than the President of the United States had at his fingertips in 1976 in your pathetic little mobiles. There is no need for universities anymore because we've got Google. There's no need and no excuse now for you to remain ignorant, and you won't have a university bill. Ho, ho, ho. Before you even attempt to get your head around what it is I'm saying, although it's going to be childlike at its level, I need to keep it at that level for my mentality, okay, if you want to be churlish about it. But I like things simple. You see, in Occam's theory, there's a thing called Occam's razor. And what it means is that if there's so much evidence that you have to choose from to explain a situation or an event or a murder or a crime or a state of the planet, and you have all these snippets of information, the evidence, which you will collate and sift through to come to a conclusion, a decision, it is often the most simple that makes sense as well. And it is usually that is the right one to choose under Occam's razor. It's a well-known principle. Looking at the preponderance of evidence is often the most simple solution of those available that is the most effective. and probably explains a hell of a lot more than the others. The others are just stocking fillers. Do you get me? So let's look at this. You need to understand this. Before you can be serious about considering whether we live on a flat plane and not a ball. I say a ball, a sphere, if you like, if you want to be picky. And there are picky people. Understand that there is no space travel. With the known technology to the general public. That's an important fact. What we perceive as available technology to our knowledge, not mankind's, ours, the general public's knowledge, there is no space travel. It's a scam. It's one big fuck-off vacuum above the firmament. Number 2, get a reality check and do your own due diligence on the fact is there will never and has never been satellites floating around our heads. Because if you were to believe the current shit about satellites going round and round the garden like a teddy bear, way up in space, which was an Arthur C. Clarke invention, another elite Illuminati type, scientist on the payroll. It was a dream of his, and that's all it was. And a dream that turned into a perfect scam of a way of convincing the people to part with cash for satellite communication and mobile phone technology and telecommunications. Satellites do not exist. Yeah, but I see them go. No, you don't see them go over, you dick. Okay, there are no satellites. If you are believing there are satellites and you think there is an excess of 130,000 of them up there, which by common calculation is probably conservative, going round and round the garden above our heads, how come none have ever fallen on us? How come they don't collide with one another? How come they don't go wrong? How come? How come in 1954 there were satellite dishes, if you like, look like satellite dishes, on the ground, pointing around the Earth and up to the sky? There you go, so definitely satellites then. What were they shooting at? They weren't shooting the information at satellites. They were shooting it and bouncing it off the ionosphere. That's the ozone layer. Ozone, within 30 seconds of exposure to ultraviolet light, is ionized within 30 seconds. So we might have an ozone layer, but it lasts for about 30 seconds before it becomes ionized, and that is the ionosphere. And it is that the dishes are pointing at, not satellites. There are no satellites, folks. It's a lie. A nice one, a lucrative one, but it's a lie. Ham radio people have been bouncing off, and TV and the others, have been bouncing off the ionosphere for years. Even Tesla was doing it. Anyway, except there are no satellites, that's number 2. Number 3, except that there are no such things as planets that you can land an aeroplane or a spaceship on. There are none. There are stars. There are gaseous balls. And there were wandering stars. And the wandering stars, those without a home on our firmament, are the planets. What we perceive as planets. But in no way can you land anything on them. and we can't take photographs of them, not with standard photography. And those pictures of all the different planets, Jupiter, Mars, Pluto, Venus, Saturn, blah de blah de blah, for the most part are computer generated images. Pretty pictures, just like that NASA do of the Earth. Yes. Understand that and accept it. Don't even think about investigating the flat Earth until you got your head around what I'm saying here. No space travel with known technology. No satellites floating around our heads. No planets, just gas balls wandering about. Here's another one. The moon and sun are within our firmament, which is like a Centre Parks dome above our Earth, our plane, our circular plane. We're in a Centre Parks, and within the Centre Parks, folks, is the sun and the moon going round and round the garden like a teddy bear. Except that the sun is not 93 million miles away. Stars are not light years away. And the moon's not that far away. The moon is the latest addition. The sun was here before the moon. Okay, understand that. The moon was put in late for a very good reason. It's a suppressor. It's a repeater station. That's all. Understand that. And it is within our firmament. It is no more than 3,500 miles high. And nor is the sun. And here's a biggie. This is a real tough one for you to get your head around, I suppose. I know they wouldn't, but they do. NASA lie. NASA stands for Never a Straight Answer. NASA. Now, we could get technical. I could give a slide rule out. We can talk till the cows come home about you've got all the evidence. But ask yourself who wrote the fucking textbooks. Ask yourself, the moment you went into school, the first thing that was shoved into your hand, children, was a globe. Every poster on the bloody school that I went to, the first school, 5 years old, straight out the crying arms of my mother and mine. On the wall was pictures of the planets and pictures of the Earth. And bloody globes everywhere. At 5 years old. It begs the question. If indeed we are on a flat plane, and I believe we are, who gains by the deception? Who out there would lie? Well, the amazing thing in the early days, of course, it was never considered that we lived on anything but a flat plane. It was no big deal. All the shipping maps don't take into account the curvature of the world. They're flat. Okay. Of like aeronautical maps don't take into the account or nature of the curvature of the world. Navigation maps, they don't. The new standard map of the world doesn't take into account a curvature. Those engineers who are building the G2 railway station road track, I know a couple. I live near one of them. People who lay railway tracks don't need to compensate for the curvature up or down of the curvature of the world. A ship doesn't have to put extra fuel in to compensate for the extra distance due to the curvature. It plots a point between 2 points and it's a straight line. And they calculate their fuel requirements. And so do aircraft. Pilots don't sit there pushing continuously forward on the stick to fly in harmony with the curvature of the earth. I know because I'm a pilot. Not to mention the Coriolis effect, which you can wax lyrical about. How come the polar star is dead still? And all the other stars go round and round and round, and they have done. And this Leo star sign rotates like a clock around the polar star. So NASA and the black nobility who run this world have a lot to gain from keeping us in the dark. Religion. Well, of course, it was the bloody not only the Freemasons, it was the Jesuits and the Catholic Church that put Copernicus under great pressure to change what he knew to be true. The fact is that we live on a flat plane, and suddenly start talking about us being heliocentric. Copernicus was very straight and very adamant, a great scientist and philosopher and all the other bits. He was dead set. Everybody accepted we lived on the flat earth. And suddenly the Catholic Church had something to say about it, including the Jesuits, of course. And under great pressure and duress, he changed his mind. He must have been seriously threatened. So religion had evidently something to gain. Talk about brainwashing. Technological frustration. You see, folks, we do live on a flat plane, but they have such technology, those that seek to keep it from us. They don't want to share. It's been known about from the ancient history that is suppressed, that we live on a flat plane. I'll try and show you what my belief is here. This is a little keyring, and you can see that we have our landmass and our oceans, and around such landmass you can see a white ring. That is the Antarctic ice circle. There is no Antarctica that you believe to be seen. You just think it's somewhere you go. If you go south, that's what you hit. Folks, you can see also the moon and the sun. If I put a little light on, it might go nuts here, but can you see? And the sun and the moon rotate round and round and round. And as they go round, it gets dark, it gets light, it gets dark, it gets light. And the sun is rotating or catching up with the moon because it travels a little bit faster. Twice, 3 times a year, it catches it up and overtakes it. Do you know what happens 3 times a year? Yes, you've guessed it. An eclipse. You see, your perception is when you see a sunrise, you think it's rising round the corner. No, it ain't. It's just coming into your view. Because we all have a blind spot and the sun suddenly appears. It's your perspective. It's your perspective. And it's coming towards you, and as things come towards you, folks, it looks like it's going to go over your head, of course. It's rising. And it has gone past. And when you look behind it, it's setting. It's not setting, it's just going out of your view. But if you were to be stupid enough to zoom into a sun that's going setting, you could zoom it back up by zooming it towards you. If you have a ship on the horizon, it looks like it's disappearing around the corner. But you get a Nikon P900 and you zoom in, the ship will come into full view again, even though it's 35, 50, 60 miles away. Well, if there was a curvature, there would be no ship to zoom in on, because you'd have nothing to focus on. People say, yeah, but we've gone around the world. We've circumnavigated the world, haven't we? Duh. Yeah. People have gone round and round the garden that way. West to eastern. East to west. Nobody has gone north to south. Circumnavigation. I wonder why. Nobody's gone that way round. They've just gone that way round or that way round. It took a guy 3.5 years to go around in the early days in his sailing ship, and he never got past that ice ring. You know that one round here, the one that is heavily guarded, because outside this ring, if I were to extend it and make it bigger and bigger and bigger, there are other continents that you and me aren't allowed near. There are nation after nation state after nation state drilling for oil, drilling for gold, mining coal, mining rare earth minerals. There's a huge industry on the land masses outside the Antarctic ice circle. You don't see this advertised. Of course you don't, because it's basically every country is for itself. Nobody has rights. Russia have got huge interests. China are there. Japan are there. Britain are there. America are there. They're all got their interests. They're drilling for oil. They're drilling for gold. There's copious amounts of gold and rare earth minerals. All we get out of Admiral Byrd is there's lots of coal. Well, dig a little, Admiral Byrd, and you'll find there's lots of oil under the extra continents that are laying around and the complete. You think the Earth stops here? It goes out and out and out. Nobody truly knows how wide it is, and what does it matter? I'm only interested in little old me living on a flat plane. Because I know I ain't going to go over this ice ring, because I'm not allowed. Why? Who gives them the right to stop me if I wish, as a human being, a free person? I want to go over here to this land continent that the Chinese have known about since the 6th century. There have been maps discovered to show you there's more land outside of our known land masses here than we got nothing. This is nothing compared to the land that's around us, but we're not allowed out. We're caged animals, folks. And we're encased by a large glass dome called a firmament. That's what we are. Who else gains by the deception? Well, we know industry does, of course. Big money. Just explain that. It's not a fuckfest, folks. This is a land grab. And Germany were first there with Neue Schwabenland. And under them land masses, folks, there is such advanced technology that has been dug up and been frozen in time. And there probably is alien technology that they're using and keeping for themselves. Of course, the Satanists gain. And we know who they are. So having said that then, I am more convinced than ever that we live on a flat plane. You can wax lyrical about the Bedford Canal, the experiment where there's 6 miles, 2 men with a theodolite looking at one another. No curvature on 6 miles. The Suez Canal, 60 miles long, I think. No curvature. You can zoom into a ship that looks like it's going over the edge. And you can zoom it back into full view. No curvature. You see? And we're not travelling around at 1,600 miles an hour. Or whatever they say it is. I don't even bother looking at the bloody numbers now. What's the point? The satellite myth, you see, that's great. It's a great money spinner, this satellite business. Do you know why? Because your mobile phone and our telephone and our television, our satellite, and our sat-nav systems, they wouldn't work without satellites. Yes, they would. They have to because there's no satellites. It's called pass the parcel. All over our land, if you can bother to open your bloody eyes, there are aerials, repeater stations, aerials, every bloody way you look. And when you go out of town, there's not that many aerials, you suddenly don't get a very good mobile phone signal, do you? But if the satellite is way up there, you should have a continuously brilliant signal. You don't know, do you? You see? It's past the parcel. You send a signal out, it hits the nearest aerial to you that's tuned into your frequency. And that sends it to its mate, who sends it to its mate, who sends it to a central collection point, a hub. And that hub sends it down fibre optic cable, maybe, if you're phoning abroad, under the sea. And they've been laid since 1956. Miles upon miles upon miles, like a network, a spider's network under our oceans. And they're that thick. And one tiny hair-like fibre can carry thousands of conversations. How do you think a country like Japan or China can just switch off the internet if they wished to stop their viewers looking at stuff we can look at? Oh, it's very simple. They turn the fucking repeater station off. There's nothing to talk to. They go la. They go deaf. And they can switch it back on. Folks, whenever NASA send pictures, NASA, never a straight answer, of our alleged space out there with the ISS and outer space, the moon landings, where are all the satellites? There are no satellites. Get it in your head. Your sat-nav works by repeater stations. Your motorway network speed cameras work by repeater stations. Everything works by radio and bouncing off and using our dome, remember the center parks, or our ionosphere, to bounce. Nobody has managed to break through the firmament to get a rocket up there, number one. Number two is if the rocket technology got through the firmament, because space is allegedly a vacuum, there's nothing for the rocket to push against. So how can it propel itself forward? The best case scenario in a vacuum, it would spin around like a twat. and kill the occupants. And then we have the Van Allen belt. Let's not even discuss the Van Allen belt. There's no space travel. Understand that. It's a method that NASA have used to cream off money off the idiots to pay for deep underground military bases. There is a parallel civilization underground equally as large as America, underneath America. And it ain't for you and it ain't for me. It's got high speed travel. It's got such technology. They keep it for themselves. We are here at their bidding to serve them. It is them who want to keep it suppressed. It is them who are feeding us full of shit about the occasional picture of Mars. For Christ's sake, we can't get stuff right on this planet. How? We can't take a proper photograph of the Earth? Yet they send back pictures from millions and millions and millions and millions of miles away from fucking Mars. Are you having a laugh? It's a bit like the cobbler's children have no shoes, don't you think? Of course we live on a flat fucking Earth. Finally, you want to know why the tides are not affected by the bloody moon? Another scam and a lie. Because our seas are all connected. And they, if you look in the Bible, and I ain't a religious freak, you don't need to be, there is in the deep oceans of our world a layer of supersaline, and twice a day that rises and sinks. Supersaline and normal saline won't mix. So as the supersaline comes up, like you're breathing, the tides come in. As the saline comes down, the tides go out. Simples. But it's not. It's the moon. That is, it's the moon, you moron. Well, listen then. If it's the moon that affects the tides, why doesn't the tides make the non-saltwater lakes of our world have tides? You see, I go fly fishing at Grafham Waters in Cambridge, which is pretty big. And I don't have to worry about the water rising and falling twice a day because it's the moon's coming around. And it's the tides coming in and the tides going out. Even the huge lakes of our world, the freshwater lakes of our world, don't raise a bloody millimetre when the tides are coming in and out. How come the moon doesn't affect them? It's nothing to do with the bloody moon, the tides. If you want to know the truth, the sun probably has a little effect on it, but not the moon. The sun is no more than 3,500 miles high, and nor is the bloody moon. The moon is a disc. It is a flat disc. It is not a bloody ball. But I just want to look at the flat earth. I'm still trying to get my head around it, folks. I'm still learning. I'm still listening to Eric Dubay, and I'm still looking at the preponderance of evidence. But I'm convinced more than ever now. I am not embarrassed now. I've got past that point. I've come out, if you know what I mean. I've come out. It's about I'm gay. I'm not gay, but I've come out. I'm a flat earther. I'm proud of it. Absolutely. Because I ain't no sheep. And I ain't no dickhead. And if you want to carry on being a baller, you be a baller. It is not my business to convince you of otherwise, because you're perhaps not ready yet for the shock that you've been lied to by the governments of the world. And it's been international deceit. Maybe you're not cooked yet. Do you know what I mean? Come on, folks. Get real. The stars aren't light years away. I can video stars with my Nikon P900. They look fucking close to me. And if they were trillions and trillions of light years away, I wouldn't be able to see dick. But I can spot them. And I can look at different colours. And they're little dancing mazes for me. They're little magic little things. And every one of them is unique. Don't give me the northern light shit. Don't give me the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere. There's no hemispheres, for Christ's sake. We're on a flat plane. Hemisphere is half a sphere. We're not on a sphere. We're on a flat plane. Get it into your head. Nothing you say will convince me otherwise. Over to you to do your own due diligence. For me, I'm going to go look at my new standard map of the world and marvel at how it is that they've pulled it off on the world's population so beautifully to treat us like fucking morons. Not me.
If I say that the world is round and someone else says it's flat, that's worth reporting. But you might also want to report on a bunch of scientific evidence that seems to support the notion that the world is round.
We're trying to move towards the future. They want to be stuck in the past. And we've heard this kind of thinking before. Let me tell you something. If some of these folks were around when Columbus set sail, they must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society. They would not have believed that the world was round. Much patience for anyone who denies that this challenge is real. We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
The president is isolated in his beliefs here because he's got virtually no support on Capitol Hill on this statement, Jake.
It's amazing to watch the White House continue to argue that the earth is flat. Jeff Zeleny, Manu Raj.
My friends, these people are so out of touch with science. You don't need to be a scientist to know that the earth is round.
If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you haven't subscribed, hit the red subscribe button. Also click on the little bell icon to get notifications of my Flat Earth videos, which I upload every day.
Saliva